Hello, it's me, Ollie Quint. Oh Lord. Yeah, I just don't seem to be doing... Well, actually, I don't mind that I don't do as much of these as I used to. It's probably the work of an insane man. Well, it still is, but... Well, no, actually, I'm not insane. Come on, that's offensive to both the insane and non-insane people. Both the insane people who aren't like me and the same people who are like me, who I'm now calling insane. Nobody wins. Anyway, a few crappy ones here. These are all terrible, but they've started to amass, and I did a few last night. And when I get on a roll of doing a few, then I have to get them out quickly, because what if... So I can't, obviously, when there's too much going on, my mind's so rampant, I've got so many ideas banging around in my head. No, but when I have multiple ideas at once, I know I just don't have the brain capacity to manage all the thoughts about them, and I can only write down so many words about them. So hopefully if there's anything I want to add on, I'll get them out if I get them out sooner. Otherwise I'll just lose them. But this is an old one. It was when Sam Harris did some kind of old podcast a while ago. I think it was a Very Bad Wizards one. I think my mind is made up about the Star Trek teleportation equal to murder query, and I side mostly with the Very Bad Wizards on this one. My reasoning is as follows, and in fact follows on from my reasoning around clones from about a year ago. My thought... Oh God, I sound like such a twat. No wonder I don't do this. My thought experiment concluded... Oh my God. My thought experiment... What a prick. See, does it mean that I'm not a prick if I acknowledge that it makes me prick these things? Probably not. I just don't know how to write in any other way, really. My thought experiment concluded that if you went into a room knowing you would be cloned, then when both you and the clone would believe you were the person who originally walked in the room, and not the one that only just came into existence moments ago. Oh, fucking hell. I've botched that one. So if you go into a room and you come out the other side, and you knew that in the interim, in that room, let's say it's a pitch black room or you're blindfolded or something, in that interim you were cloned. When you come out the other side, you won't know whether you're the clone or not. Okay, here we go. Provided you can't see the clone. No, even then, you still don't know. Never mind. Not the one that only just came into existence moments ago. Now, all you have to assume is that once the cloning is complete, you only experience your subjective experience and consciousness, not that of the suspected clone as well, because I don't see why that would be the case. You don't experience the consciousness of anyone else, so why would the clone... Well, identical twins don't seem... Oh, never mind, that's different, but, come on. I just don't see a reason for it. If we then modify the Star Trek experiment to follow the same parameters, it should be clear that the teleported clone's experience, although as close to identical to yours as can be, is separate. And from that point forwards, it only becomes a question of whether you're comfortable ceasing your consciousness in order for a clone version to carry an identical version on in your place. I have spent plenty of time where a cessation of my experience would have been welcome, but then so too would have been the potential clones. Because I wanted to commit suicide, so ceasing my conscious experience, my subjective experience would have been exactly what I wanted. But then because it's a clone, is exactly like me, he would have wanted the same thing. So maybe the only people who are going to go through with the only people who understand the teleportation thing, the only ones who will go through with it are suicidal ones, and then they'll just kill themselves after they've been teleported anyway. So it would be useless. Absolutely useless. No, I think enough people would be willing to accept that, although I mean it's the opposite of, well, it's just not like, this was what Sam Harris was talking about with the consciousness one with what's his name, Anil Seth, where when you get under anesthesia, you supposedly, the period where you're anaesthetised is you're truly unconscious, he reckoned. But it doesn't matter whether that's entirely true or not. I imagine it probably is, because he's pretty smart. But, well, apart from when he said some weird stuff about not being able to create artificial consciousness, I don't know. Anyway, what was I saying? Jesus Christ. Yeah, so when you're anaesthetised, it's like you're entirely properly unconscious, and so your subjective experience seems to just leap from the moment you're anaesthetised to the moment you wake up, and there seems to be no pause in between to you. That's exactly what wouldn't happen with a clone. There you go. Well, sorry, with the teleportation thing. There we go. Jesus Christ. See, this is why I write things down, because I'm not very good at passing them out loud. I'm very good at passing them out in my head, but the number of conversations I haven't... That's what... I think I've probably mentioned this before, but that's what I do when I'm just being, I'm just existing. My mind tends to just imagine fake conversations that I think I was having, just in weird situations. Like I'll be on a talk show with someone, like Joe. In my head, I was on the Joe Rogan podcast talking to him about some shit. But that's what my mind does. It just has conversations with people. Me imagine situations where I'm having a conversation with someone and then goes through the conversation, and in those situations in my head I am a much better talker than I am now, and for some reason I don't seem to come across the stammering issue in my brain, and all the ideas seem to flow naturally without see now I struggle because there are multiple things I want to say at once and then I end up saying none of them. But when I'm having a conversation in my head, well, there's only one thing and it all follows without me doing anything. Not that I actually do anything anyway. I think Sam may be wrong about Hume's is-ought divide. His point about every is being reliant on accepting at least a few oughts ought to adhere to logic. Open brackets, ought to adhere to logic and reason, etc. Close brackets. I believe is covered in the premise of the statement. You can't get an ought from an is. The is in the statement includes these supplementary oughts, as it's the only is we are capable of achieving. They are included in the definition of is. Oh God. We have not evolved to be perfect discoverers of reality. God, now I'm just copying other people, but I guess that's true. And so the tool oughts assumed in our definition of truth are necessary for getting as close as we can to reality with the other tools we evolved. Also, I'm not sure is relying on certain oughts is synonymous with being able to derive an ought from an is. Whiz-bangs and fizz-bangs and one-way streets spring to mind. What a stupid statement that was just then. I hate it. Right, what was I getting at there? Yeah, so I think the whole can't get an ought from an is thing is kind of quite fundamental. I mean, people impose upon Sam that it provides some kind of what's called, not backwash, backlash, not back. What's the word I'm looking for? Backfire. Never mind. Against his idea that you can have a science-based morality, but that's not true, because whatever morality you have is always going to be reliant on one supposition, and in some cases it's just that good conscious experiences are more valuable or more desirable or should be sought for more creatures than bad experiences. There we go. He says it in a much neater way. And I actually do agree with him that I agree with him and disagree with him that all is are do need to adhere to some fundamental oughts. I'm just saying that that's kind of implied a little bit, and it's kind of wordplay at that point. A little bit, not really. Okay, well that was a real load of shit. Could it be that the oh-so-common depressed person of this... Oh, this is where it starts to get fucking new agey bullshit. But it's not, is the thing. I just can't say it without it. The next one is worse, I think. Actually, no, well, it's not. It's not, but it is. But it's not. Could it be that the oh-so-common depressed person of this current generation are in their decadent phase from an evolutionary standpoint, in that the typical depression-fueled ruminations used to play a valuable role... in that the typical depression-fueled ruminations used to play a valuable role in guiding people into the future by solving problems. Obviously, some individuals have the rumination genes, along with the talent for mathematics or invention or something, while others might have had an inclination for so-called spiritual inquiries, which would have been highly valued in the past and now, of course, are almost meaningless, at least in their traditional capacities. This ties back to my idea of the whole system/human ant colony / definitely not air quotes God, because the way each node, open brackets human, close brackets, behaves affects the whole system. So, certain strains of nodes will be the ruminators, and derivations of those will be inventors and spiritualists, and they have half-lives. Perhaps the spiritualists' half-life cycles are coming to an end. That's not really how half-lives work, but anyway. And so mass extinction of that strain is favourable, or rather what the system has been unintentionally programmed to implement. Perhaps this is why suicide appeals to them so readily now. I should say that the spiritualists I speak of are not necessarily spiritual in their current state, but had they existed during a different era, their minds would have been best suited for success in such fields. What I'm saying is a load of bullshit. I don't really like that one. Let's just leave that one. Oh, we've got two more apparently. This is going to sound a bit stonerish, but it's just a thought that I had, which we'll soon see how I feel about that. Oh God. There is no such thing as negative thoughts. And there goes the bullshit bombshell. Or bullshit dynamite, I guess. A thought cannot be negative or positive. Only the interpreter determines how they affect mood. Unfortunately, we're not all that in control of how we respond to our thoughts. For most of us, it is a visceral reaction in almost every case. However, I imagine practiced meditators will claim to have overcome such obstacles. Of course, one would probably say that their definition of a thought includes the way it makes them feel, and so the negative aspect is retained because the word thought refers both to the content of the thought and its corresponding reaction. But really, the content is the thought part. As Sam Harris has made clear so regularly, thoughts just arise in consciousness, and we don't really know where they come from, or where they came from. And so we call the thoughts that happen to make us feel bad when they arise in our consciousness negative. But it seems fathomable to me that we could easily, and I guess meditation probably is a good way to get there, reach a point where our thoughts are seen for exactly what they are, collections of words, sounds and images that we can receive with calm indifference. So, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, obviously there's a reason for calling thoughts negative. There are some thoughts which, by calling negative, then you can choose to avoid them because you know that they'll. I mean, there's value in recognizing some thoughts as good and some thoughts as bad. If you start having thoughts about killing people and you start having thoughts about going on a mass murder rampage, then it's good to be able to recognise that as a negative thought. I'm thinking more about the kind of thoughts that make you feel bad in the instant. And I guess they probably serve a purpose too. Well, I know they do. But in many ways, it can be beneficial to recognise that they're just occurring to you. And what I'm saying is, the benefit of recognising thoughts as positive or negative is that you're able to then impact or influence the chance or what type of thoughts will arise in the future. But also benefits of recognizing that they're just occurring to you and your experience is just there being buffeted by them. You can here we go with the word detachment. You can detach yourself from them slightly so that you're not so easily buffeted. If you just have a negative thought that doesn't seem to have any value, like, I don't know, you think about, I don't know why, but I can't think of one right now. You just want to kill yourself or something, but that probably does have some value anyway. But let's just say you think that something that makes you want to kill yourself, and you just think, I want to kill myself. Then realising that that's just a thought, I give up. Right? That was helpful to you, Ollie. Okay. I think if there is one idea which would be the most beneficial to humanity's flourishing, which doesn't just include humanity, the continuation of humanity I like to expand to all conscious creatures, to consciousnesses as creatures is flourishing. If it were I think if there was one idea which would be the most beneficial to humanity's flourishing, if it were well subscribed, it would be that we should all try to be good people whenever we can. Oh, wow, that's great. I believe the vast majority of us are going round on a daily basis, doing things which we know not to be characteristics of what we would describe as those of good people. In many cases, we deceive ourselves as to whether our actions are in fact good and morally just, but in reality, we know them not to be. I've described before why goodness triumphs over evil, and that it is synonymous with some symbiosis, but symbiotic relationships can only benefit beings who are willing to engage in symbiotic relationships. Engage in them would have been an easy way to say that. It's unfortunate that so many people require the promise of eternal happiness in a make-believe afterlife, or the threat of eternal damnation, to behave in this way. I have also stated before how I believe there may be some mathematically viable, but in no way supernatural, way in which karma occurs some karma-like thing occurs due to the simple mechanistic relationships between beings. Someone who does good things will unconsciously create an environment for themselves which increases the likelihood that good things will happen near and or to them. Just be a good person for your own sake. Well, that's great. It's all nodes. That's all related to nodes again. I just got this picture of I'm out in space. I'm looking at the planet, and there are all these little. There's a net, and all the cross section where all the lines of the net cross. The cross sections, they're points, nodes, and some of them are they're all red, and then one of them turns green, and then a few of them around it turns green, and then eventually they all turn green. That's people being good. Okay, right. Well, there you go. Hope that's been real helpful to everybody. But the one talking about people being bad, I just think people do things an awful lot. They know if they really think about it, they know make them not to be a good thing to do, but it benefits them a little bit. So they kind of justify it. I think if you just try to minimise that and just do more things that you know to be good, then that'll be good. That's the only way the whole world will become good, is if everybody starts doing that a little bit. And then if everybody started doing it, then it would affect you, and it's a nice little thing, but it's like chain reaction. There we go. Fucking hell, got some words out. Bye. That's been great. Bye. It's been great. Bye.